My brothers and sisters, imagine this. You just returned from a funeral. The air is still heavy. The sound of crying still echoes in your mind. You walk into your home carrying a few small things, maybe a piece of cloth, a little soil, or even the clothes of the one who passed away. You think nothing of it. But what if I told you that sometimes what we bring from a funeral can carry more than just memories? There are things that once brought into your home after a janazah can bring sadness, restlessness, and even unseen negativity. These are not old stories or myths. They are real spiritual warnings many people ignore until it's too late. Today I want to share with you 6 divine warnings from Allah. Reminders that protect your home, your peace, and your soul from unseen harm after a funeral. So listen carefully, because one small act done without knowledge can open a door you never intended to open. 1. Never bring the clothes or belongings of the deceased without cleansing. When a loved one passes away, every object they owned, their clothes, shoes, watch, or even a simple blanket suddenly becomes filled with memories. You look at it and remember their laughter, their smell, their presence. It's natural to feel attached to those things because they remind you of love and connection. But what most people don't realize is that these items also carry emotional weight. They absorb the atmosphere of the final days, the sadness, the tears, and the heaviness that surrounded the time of loss. When you bring such items home immediately after a funeral without cleansing them or saying a prayer, that same emotional heaviness can settle inside your living space. You might notice a strange feeling of sorrow in the house, a quietness that doesn't feel peaceful, but heavy, as if the energy of grief followed you home. This isn't superstition. It's about emotional and spiritual sensitivity. Our hearts, our homes, and even the objects around us hold energy. Islam reminds us to maintain purity, not only of the body, but also of the environment around us. Before keeping any belongings of the deceased, take a moment to handle them with respect and mindfulness. Wash the clothes gently with clean water and a calm heart. While doing so, pray silently, asking Allah to bless the soul who once wore them and to remove any sadness attached to those things. You may even light a simple scent afterward, not to ward off anything, but to bring peace and cleanliness into your home. If there are items you don't need, don't store them in a box out of guilt. Instead, give them to someone in need as a form of charity on behalf of the one who passed. This act not only benefits the poor, but also sends continuous blessings to the deceased. It transforms grief into goodness, loss into light. Remember, my brothers and sisters, you do not honor your loved ones by clinging to their things. You honor them by continuing the good they left behind. Let their clothes and possessions become a means of kindness and prayer, not a reminder of pain. Let them carry peace, not sorrow. Because when you release something with love and remembrance, Allah replaces that emptiness with calmness in your heart. Your loved one's memory doesn't live in their clothes. It lives in your prayers, your gratitude, and your acts of compassion. That is what keeps their soul elevated and your home protected. 2. Never bring soil or dust from the grave. When someone we love is buried, our hearts feel an emptiness that words can never describe. Standing by the grave, watching the soil being placed over them creates a deep, emotional connection to that spot. Some people, out of love and longing, feel the urge to take a small handful of that soil back home as a memory, as something to hold on to. They believe it will help them feel close to the person they lost. But my brothers and sisters, what may seem like a small emotional gesture can have serious spiritual consequences. The grave is a sacred resting place. It belongs to the deceased, not to us. That soil has witnessed the most private moment between a soul and its creator, the return to Allah. Taking soil from there is not just unnecessary, it disturbs the sanctity of that sacred space. The Prophet taught us to honor the dead, to visit their graves, to remember death and reflect on the hereafter, but never to take anything away from the grave itself. When you remove soil from where a body rests, you are taking something that was meant to remain untouched. And in doing so, you might bring emotional heaviness and spiritual discomfort into your home. Many families who have done this notice that the environment of their house changes. It begins to feel gloomy or heavy, as though sorrow has settled in the air. This is because that soil carries the vibration of mourning, silence, and farewell. It was meant to stay in the earth where prayers of mercy are made, not in a home where life continues. Bringing it back can remind you constantly of loss rather than hope. And Allah does not want His servants to live in constant grief. He wants us to move forward with remembrance and faith. Instead of taking something from the grave, do something for the person who rests there. Stand near their grave, close your eyes and pray from your heart. Ask Allah to forgive their sins, to fill their grave with light, and to grant them eternal peace. Then walk away with peace, not with soil. The love you carry in your heart is far more powerful than anything you could hold in your hand. If you wish to keep a reminder of your loved one, let it be something pure and symbolic, a photo, a verse of the Quran framed on the wall, or a candle you light while making dua. These are reminders that guide you toward patience and reflection, not objects that tie you to sorrow. Islam teaches us balance, to grieve but not to live in grief, to remember but not to worship memory. When you feel the urge to take soil from a grave, pause and remember this. Your loved one is not in the dust. They are with Allah. Their body may rest in the earth, but their soul is in a realm of mercy far beyond what you can touch. Let the earth stay where it belongs, pure, undisturbed, and peaceful. So when you walk away from the grave, do so with gratitude. Say in your heart, "Oh Allah, just as I leave their resting place in peace, allow peace to enter my home and my heart." That is how you honor the dead, not by carrying soil, but by carrying prayers. 3. Never bring food from the funeral for blessings. After a funeral, it's common to see people distributing food. It's a kind gesture, a way of bringing comfort to those who have gathered in grief. But over time, many have misunderstood this act. Some people take home the food from a mourning house thinking it carries spiritual blessing, as if eating it will somehow bring barakah or protect their home from harm. My brothers and sisters, we must understand that true blessings do not come from food that is surrounded by sadness, but from sincere intention and acts of charity done purely for the sake of Allah. When food is prepared after a death, it is not meant to be treated like a sacred offering. Its purpose is to ease the hunger of guests, neighbors, and the poor, not to be stored, eaten, or treated as something holy. Taking it home, storing it in your fridge, and eating it later while thinking it brings blessing is not what Islam teaches. Blessing or barakah does not hide inside a piece of bread or a bowl of rice. It comes from your intention. It comes when you feed someone who has less than you, when you give with compassion, and when you remember Allah while doing so. Food from a funeral often carries the emotions of that moment. It has been prepared in a home filled with sorrow, where hearts are heavy and eyes are filled with tears. Bringing it into your house can unknowingly extend that atmosphere of grief. The house may begin to feel quiet and tense, as if the sadness has traveled with the food. That is why our scholars remind us never bring home food from a janazah with the idea of gaining blessing. Instead, share it with those in need. Let the act of giving be the blessing itself. If you truly want to honor the person who passed away, cook a meal at your own home and distribute it to orphans, widows, or the poor. Say to yourself, "This is for the sake of my loved one." Every bite they eat will send reward to the deceased and peace to your heart. That's how the Prophet ﷺ taught us to keep connection with those who have left. Not by holding on to what was shared in mourning, but by spreading kindness afterward. Let us also be careful of the cultural habits that have no foundation in Islam. In some traditions, people wrap the food tightly, believing that by keeping it overnight, it holds soul energy. Others make special portions for family members, believing it ensures protection. These are cultural myths that only spread confusion. What Allah blesses is simplicity, sincerity, and charity, not ritualistic habits that have no purpose. When you visit a mourning home, go with empathy, not with an appetite. Offer words of comfort, not requests to take food. And if someone insists on sending food with you, accept it with respect, but do not keep it as something sacred. Eat it if you wish, but do not believe it carries special power. The only thing that carries power is a prayer spoken sincerely from your heart. So my brothers and sisters, let us change our thinking. Blessings are not found in leftovers. They are found in giving, forgiving, and remembering Allah through service. The next time you attend a funeral, instead of bringing food home, bring home reflection. Reflect on how temporary life is, how much you still have to give, and how every good deed done for the sake of the deceased becomes light for their soul. Remember, the best meal you can offer in their name is feeding a hungry person, not feeding yourself. The reward of charity continues to rise to the heavens, even when the person who inspired it lies beneath the earth. That is true barakah, not in the food from the morning table, but in the mercy that spreads when love turns into giving. 4. Never bring perfume or incense used for the deceased. When a person leaves this world, the process of preparing their body for burial is one of the most sacred acts a human being can perform. It's a moment filled with humility, reflection, and deep respect. During this process, people often use special perfumes, oils, or incense to cleanse and honor the deceased before they are wrapped and laid to rest. The fragrance is a symbol of purity, a final act of care before the soul returns to its creator. But here's something many people overlook. That perfume or incense carries not just a beautiful smell, but also the emotional and spiritual energy of that moment. When people bring those same fragrances home thinking it's just another scent, they often notice that their homes begin to feel unusually heavy, silent, or uneasy. Why? Because that fragrance was part of a sacred farewell. It accompanied a body being washed, a soul being prayed over, and a heart being grieved for. It witnessed tears, whispered prayers, and the quiet stillness that follows death. To use that same oil or incense casually in your home, to spray it on furniture, burn it for decoration, or keep it in a drawer, is to mix the atmosphere of life with the atmosphere of death. It confuses the emotional energy around you and can bring an invisible heaviness that lingers. Islam teaches us about purity in every form, physical, emotional, and spiritual. The Prophet taught that cleanliness is half of faith. But cleanliness does not only mean removing dirt from your clothes or body. It also means keeping your environment free from energies and memories that are not meant to be there. The perfume used for the deceased was never meant for daily use. It was meant to accompany a soul on its journey to bring peace and honor in that sacred transition. Once that purpose is fulfilled, its role ends there. Bringing it home or keeping it in your cabinet because it smells good is not wise. The intention behind that scent is what defines its nature. And its intention was not for worldly pleasure, but for spiritual farewell. Some people even store leftover oil thinking it holds blessing because it was used during a religious act. But blessings don't lie in objects. They lie in obedience, sincerity, and the remembrance of Allah. That oil or incense was part of someone's return to their Lord, not an item of protection or luck. If there's leftover perfume or incense, the respectful thing to do is to dispose of it properly or use it again only for preparing another deceased body, not for home use. It should remain in that sacred cycle of service, not become part of daily life. Treat it as something holy, not decorative. Let's also think about what fragrance represents in Islam. Scent is deeply connected to purity, prayer, and the unseen. The Prophet loved fragrance and said it was among the things dearest to him. But even he taught that fragrance must match intention. A scent used for worship should remind you of peace, humility, and awareness, not of sorrow or the grave. When you burn incense or wear perfume, it should lift the atmosphere of your home, not fill it with memories of mourning. There's also a psychological side to this. Smell is one of the strongest triggers of memory. A certain scent can immediately bring back emotions and images. When you use perfume or incense that was once used around the deceased, it can subconsciously bring back the pain of loss. Every time it fills the room without realizing it, you might find yourself feeling down, quiet, or emotionally drained. Whenever that fragrance lingers, this is not superstition, it's emotional truth. So my brothers and sisters, never treat these sacred fragrances casually. If you want to honor your loved one, Keep that perfume as a memory, but never as something to use again. If you must keep it, store it in a safe place with the intention of remembrance, not use. Whenever you see it, make a short prayer for the one who has passed, asking Allah to grant them mercy and peace. And if you wish to fill your home with fragrance, choose new incense, new oils, and new perfumes that bring light and positivity. When you use them, say in your heart, may this scent bring calmness and protection into my home. Let your home carry the fragrance of gratitude, not grief. Remember, Islam is a religion of balance. It doesn't forbid fragrance. It teaches us how to use it with wisdom. The perfume used to honor the dead has already fulfilled its noble purpose. It has seen its moment. Leave it in peace as you should leave the departed in peace. Bring into your home the fragrance of life, hope and prayer, and Allah will fill your space with tranquility far greater than any scent could ever give. 5. Never bring leftover shroud, cloth, or items from the burial. When a loved one passes away, their burial is one of the most emotionally charged moments a family can experience. In that sacred process, every item used, the white shroud, the rope, the cloth, and even the small pieces left aside carries profound meaning. These items are part of one of life's most humbling acts, returning a soul to its creator. Yet many people, out of love, respect, or even superstition, make the mistake of bringing leftover pieces of the shroud or burial materials home. They believe these things can bring protection, blessings, or spiritual safety. But my brothers and sisters, nothing could be further from the truth. Those materials have already fulfilled their divine purpose. They have witnessed the departure of a soul. The moment when life left the body, when prayers for mercy was spoken, and when the dust of this world met the creation of Allah once again. The shroud is not just fabric. It represents the final chapter of a person's earthly existence. Bringing any part of it back home pulls the atmosphere of death into a space meant for life. It confuses the emotional energy of the home, filling it with heaviness and quiet grief that can linger long after the burial has ended. You may not see it, but everything has an energy. Our clothes, our rooms, even our homes carry the emotion of what happens within them. The shroud, ropes, and cloth from the burial ground are soaked in the energy of parting, farewell, and sorrow. When they brought into your home, that subtle heaviness can affect the people living there, causing anxiety, restlessness, sadness, or even tension that seems to appear without reason. Islam teaches balance, cleanliness, and the separation between sacred acts and daily life. What belongs to the grave must remain there. In some cultures, people keep small leftover pieces of the burial cloth folded in a drawer, believing it offers protection from evil or misfortune. Others might tie a thread from the shroud on their wrist, hang it in their car, or place it under a pillow. These are not Islamic teachings. They are emotional habits born from misunderstanding. Protection does not come from a piece of cloth. It comes from faith, prayer, and remembrance of Allah. No object, no matter how sacred its use, can shield you if your heart is distant from your Creator. If there are leftover materials after the burial, extra cloth, rope, or anything unused, the best thing to do is to donate them for a noble purpose. Give them to a charity that serves the poor. Let the fabric be used by someone who truly needs it. When you do that with a sincere heart, it becomes a form of charity for the deceased. Imagine how beautiful it is that something meant for burial brings warmth or comfort to someone living. That is how we transform sorrow into goodness. And if the cloth was already used during the burial, even if only briefly, it should not return to your home. Treat it with respect, but never reuse it. Dispose of it properly in a clean place, ensuring it is not disrespected or thrown carelessly. The cloth witnessed one of the most sacred transitions in existence, the return of a human soul to its Lord. Let it rest in dignity, just like the person it once covered. There's also a deeper spiritual lesson here. The burial shroud reminds us of the simplicity of life's end. No matter how rich, powerful, or famous a person was, everyone leaves this world wrapped in the same plain white cloth. It strips away pride, wealth, and attachment. It reminds us that nothing material will follow us to the grave, only our deeds. By clinging to parts of that cloth, we may unintentionally cling to the fear and sadness of death, rather than the lessons it was meant to teach. Instead of keeping the shroud, keep the message it carries. Let it remind you that one day you too will return to Allah with nothing but your actions. That realization should motivate you to purify your heart, your home, and your habits. Replace objects of sorrow with acts of service. Replace superstition with supplication. Replace fear with faith. If you wish to keep something to honor your loved one, do it the right way. Frame a verse of the Quran in their memory. Donate a prayer mat to a mosque or plant a tree in their name. These bring light, not darkness, blessings, not heaviness. My brothers and sisters, Islam does not ask us to hold on to symbols of death. It asks us to hold on to the purpose of life. Bringing home leftover burial items mixes what belongs to the grave with what belongs to the living. And that brings confusion to the soul and home alike. The grave is a place of silence. The home is a place of prayer. The grave holds endings. The home holds beginnings. Keep those boundaries clear. So if you ever find yourself with an extra piece of cloth or a small object from the burial, don't think of it as protection. Think of it as a reminder that your real safety, peace, and blessing will always come from faith, prayer, and the remembrance of Allah. Leave the objects where they belong and fill your home not with symbols of death, but with words of life, gratitude, remembrance, and trust in the one who gives and takes life with perfect wisdom. 6. Never bring the energy of the graveyard into your home. When you return from a funeral or a visit to the graveyard, it's not just your body that comes back. Your mind and spirit carry the emotional weight of what you just witnessed. The graveyard is a place of silence, reflection, and remembrance. It reminds us of how fragile life truly is, how quickly everything ends, and how one day we too will rest beneath the soil. It's normal to feel sadness, fear, or deep thought in that environment. But the mistake many people make is that they carry that same energy back into their homes, an energy of grief, heaviness, and sorrow without realizing the effect it can have. Your home should be a space of warmth, peace, and comfort. It's where families laugh, rest, and find safety after the difficulties of the outside world. But when you come back from the graveyard with your heart still heavy and your thoughts still full of darkness, that atmosphere can spill into your surroundings. You may notice the air feeling heavy, people becoming unusually quiet, or even arguments happening more often, not because of something physical, but because of the emotional energy that lingers. Grief has a vibration, and when it's not released through prayer and reflection, it can attach itself to your environment. That's why Islam emphasizes spiritual cleansing and remembrance after attending a janazah or visiting a grave. It's not just ritual, it's wisdom. When you leave the cemetery, you must leave behind not only the soil, but also the emotional weight that belongs there. Take the lessons, not the sorrow. Let the reflection stay in your heart, but don't let the grief follow you home. When you return from a funeral, pause before entering your house. Take a moment outside, close your eyes and breathe deeply. Whisper a prayer asking Allah to fill your home with peace and protect your family from sadness and heaviness. Then enter your home with the mindset of gratitude, not grief. Instead of sitting down in silence and replaying the funeral in your head, try to shift your focus. Talk to your family about life, kindness, or the importance of living with purpose. Let death remind you to live better, not to stop living. Many scholars remind us that visiting graves is not meant to make us fearful of death. It's meant to make us mindful of how we live. It teaches us humility, not hopelessness. It teaches us patience, not panic. So when you come home, don't bring back the atmosphere of the graveyard. Bring back its lessons. Remind yourself and your family that life is short, that every breath is a gift, and that the best way to honor the dead is to live righteously. There's also a practical wisdom here. After attending a funeral, it's wise to refresh yourself before mingling with family members. Wash your hands and face, change your clothes, and spend a few quiet moments in prayer. This isn't just about cleanliness. It's about spiritual reset. You washing away the heaviness of grief and preparing to re-enter your daily life with peace. It's like drawing a line between death and living, a way of saying, I've learned, I've reflected, and now I will live with awareness. Be careful not to dwell too long in sadness. Some people, after returning from funerals, fall into deep silence for days. They stop smiling, they isolate themselves, or they keep replaying the image of the burial. While grief is natural, Islam teaches balance: to mourn, but not to lose yourself in mourning. To remember death, but also to be grateful for the life that remains. Excessive sorrow doesn't help the soul of the deceased, nor does it help your own. What helps both is prayer, patience, and good deeds. If your heart feels heavy after attending a funeral, channel that emotion into something meaningful. Donate something in the name of the deceased. Help someone in need. Visit an elderly neighbor. Read a chapter from the Quran and dedicate its reward to the one who passed away. These actions transform pain into purpose. They shift your energy from sadness to service. And that's exactly what Allah loves. Also, be mindful of what conversations take place after a funeral. Often people come home and start discussing the details. Who cried the most, what the body looked like, how the burial felt, or what they heard in the graveyard. These talks only feed grief and fear. Instead, redirect those conversations. Speak about the mercy of Allah, the importance of forgiveness, and the hope of reunion in the hereafter. The more your words focus on hope, the more your home will radiate peace. Remember, the graveyard is a place of reality. It reminds you where you're going, but your home is a place of gratitude, and it reminds you how to live until you get there. Don't mix the two. When you step out of the graveyard, imagine you're stepping back into life with new purpose. Promise yourself that you'll be more patient, more kind, more aware of time. Let death inspire you to live, not depress you to exist. Before sleeping that night, sit quietly for a few moments. Reflect on what you saw, but end the reflection with prayer. Say, "O Allah, grant peace to those who have returned to you, and protect the hearts of those still living. Make my home a place of mercy." That single moment of sincere prayer can shift your entire atmosphere from sadness to serenity. So my brothers and sisters, never bring the energy of the graveyard into your home. Leave the sorrow there and carry the wisdom with you. Your home is meant to be filled with light, laughter, remembrance, and love, not fear or silence. Let every funeral remind you to appreciate your loved ones more deeply, to speak more gently, and to use your time wisely. Because one day, you too will be the one they remember. Until then, live in a way that when people think of you, they smile with peace, not cry with regret. That is how you honor both the living and the dead, by keeping your heart alive with gratitude and your home alive with the remembrance of Allah. My brothers and sisters, death is not the end of life. It is the doorway to eternity. Every funeral we attend, every grave we stand beside, every tear we shed is a reminder from Allah that this life is temporary and everything we cling to will one day return to Him. Yet after the burial, we often forget what truly matters. We return home, sometimes bringing back objects, emotions, and energies that were never meant to enter our doors. Your home is meant to be a place of peace, a place where Allah is remembered, where hearts find comfort, and where families feel safe. But when we bring back items or energies from a funeral, we unknowingly invite the heaviness of grief into that space. The Prophet taught us that true protection comes not from things, but from remembrance, from prayer, purity, and the light of faith. Objects cannot guard you. Perfumes, cloth, or soil cannot protect you. Only a heart connected to Allah can do that. So after a janazah, protect your heart and your home. Don't let sorrow linger like a shadow in your life. Wash away grief with prayer. Cleanse your surroundings with gratitude. Fill your rooms not with reminders of death, but with remembrance of the one who gives life. When you return from a funeral, return with lessons, not with sadness. Return with purpose, not with pain. Remember, the dead do not need us to hold their clothes, soil, or scent. They need our prayers. They need our charity, our forgiveness, and our good deeds in their name. They need the light of our remembrance to reach them in their resting place. Every time you pray for them, a light shines in their grave. Every time you do good on their behalf, their soul finds peace. And as you live, remember this truth. Every moment is a blessing and every breath is a gift. Don't waste your time dwelling in loss when you can turn it into legacy. Don't let death make you fearful. Let it make you faithful. Don't let it fill your home with silence. Let it fill your soul with sincerity. When you walk back into your house after a janazah, whisper this in your heart. Oh Allah, protect my home from sadness. Replace fear with peace and fill our hearts with light and remembrance. Then look around you at your family, your loved ones, your life, and realize that you are still being given the gift of time. Use it wisely. Speak kindly, live gratefully. And never forget, the best way to honor the dead is to live in a way that prepares you for your own return to Allah with a clean heart, a peaceful home, and a soul full of remembrance. Because in the end, it is not what we keep that protects us. It is what we remember. And the remembrance of Allah is what turns every house into a home of mercy and every heart into a light that never fades.